Hello and welcome to the astrology forecast. My name is Sage, here as your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. We are, of course, in the middle of Sagittarius season, and happy birthday! If you're a Sag listening, it is your season, and I'm giving you 50% off of a birth chart or a solar return chart reading of your choice. Link is below for that. I would love to chat with you over Zoom, talk to you a little bit more about your birth chart or what's coming up for you for this next year. Now, guys, middle of Sagittarius season means that we are approaching the last full moon of 2024. So that's the first thing we're going to dive into today. How are we feeling rounding out the year? I know this year had its ups and its downs. How are we feeling, and are we ready to celebrate the culmination of 2024 with the full moon in Gemini? We're going to dive into that. We're also going to dive into Mercury finally going direct in the sign of Sagittarius. I know a lot of us have been feeling the effects of retrograde, whether that be travel delays, car problems, miscommunication, technology issues. You guys, I just got a new phone, and praise the astrology gods that be my phone is working and I was able to back it all up. But when I tell you it took me one solid week to get all of my data from one phone to the other, it was the most retrograde experience ever. So if you're experiencing any sort of retrograde energy right now, please know we are heading towards the end. The finish line is in sight, and we're going to dive into what that's going to look like for you. So coming up, we're going to look at Mercury retrograde ending as well as the full moon in Gemini. This will include a horoscope according to your rising sign. So go ahead and make sure after you listen to the beginning of this and you get a general overview of the cosmic events, you can go ahead and fast forward this video to listen for your part that's going to go way more in depth, specifically looking at what area of your life is getting impacted by this full moon in Gemini. All right, so we have two major cosmic events going on over the next 2 weeks, and they both happen on Sunday, December 15th. So mark your calendar. It's a very important date going on over these next few weeks. On the 15th, the first thing we're going to look at is Mercury going direct. Direct just means that the retrograde is over. We are no longer in the midst of Mercury's backwards spin through the sky. Now, what does this mean? First thing is, looking back at last week's horoscope, if you're not sure, I would definitely go back and re-listen, if you haven't already, to the horoscope I posted last time. It went over what area of your chart was getting affected by the retrograde. I highly recommend knowing this because this is going to serve as a piece of reflection. Because now we're entering into what's known as the post shadow of Mercury retrograde, we're finally able to implement all of the reflections and the lessons, all of the ups and downs of the retrograde. We can sort of bring it together and integrate it in order to implement whatever changes we might have decided needed to be changed during the retrograde. So thinking to what area of your life you have Sagittarius ruling over, meaning what house in your chart is ruled by Sagittarius. This is the area of life that's likely been getting a revision over the last few weeks. Now that Mercury is going direct on the 15th, a lot of things can happen very positively in this area of life. First thing is communication. If you have been feeling like miscommunications have been all over the place, maybe you haven't been able to get your point across, or you haven't been able to understand certain things that people have said to you. Maybe there's been wires crossed or even arguments that have happened because of a lack of or an ineffective quality of communication. This will likely improve after the 15th because when Mercury goes direct, Mercury is the planet of communication. So naturally, when it's not in retrograde and kind of making this backwards spin through the sky, it's operating as normal, and our communication should be as well. Travel's another thing. If you know that you're traveling for the holidays, no worries because Mercury will not be retrograde over Christmas this year. The fact that it goes direct on the 15th means that travel should be a lot smoother. You might experience less delays. I don't want to say none because we already know how that can go, but less delays, less cancellations, just a smoother ride in general, or flight, whatever it is for you, it should go a lot easier. Investments, I always say it's a little sometimes problematic to make large investments during a retrograde. It's not usually the best time to begin certain things. Often we're looking backwards. And so it's a great time to review your checkbook or review old investments. But now that Mercury retrograde is ending, if you are looking to make any sort of larger investment, now would be a better time to do that. Car issues. Car issues are abundant, obviously, during retrogrades, as Mercury is the planet that deals with short trips and, again, just frequenting places back and forth, which we often do with our car. And I know a lot of us experience car problems during retrogrades. I was fortunate enough not to this time, but I have in the past. So I know what that's like. And it is a headache. So thankfully, once the retrograde ends, car issues should be decreased. And the last thing is technology and electronics. A lot of us, as we know, have a lot of glitches going on during a retrograde. If you've been looking to upgrade your laptop, your TV, your camera, your phone, maybe you've just been experiencing a lot of tech issues, delays, slow backups like me. This might be the time when, if you've been waiting to, again, do something technologically driven, doing so after the 15th should be a lot smoother sailing. So that's all really good stuff, you guys. Last thing I will say about Mercury going direct is the fact that it is an amazing time for you right now to start reflecting on what happened over the last few weeks. Don't let this retrograde come and go without integrating the lessons that you learned. Otherwise, you're just bound to repeat them, right? We either evolve or we repeat, and evolution comes through learning and understanding the situations that happen to us and then reflecting on them so we can become better from them. So, with that being said, a couple reflection questions. If you're a journaler, meditator, if you just want to listen to this maybe while you're driving and pause the video and think about your answer to each question. First one is, what lessons have I learned during the retrograde? Very simply put. Now, this can apply to the area of your chart that Sagittarius rules over, which is where Mercury was retrograding through, but it might not, and that's okay too. Look, and again, and maybe it does, but you can't quite see that because astrology is a lot of different layers. But overall, just looking at your life over the last few weeks, what have you learned? Has there been any major aha moments that occurred to you? And can you now implement those lessons now that the retrograde's over? Second thing is, what reflections came up for you? Maybe some issues from the past arose and you had to relook over things that perhaps you hadn't looked at in a long time. Was this beneficial? And if it felt difficult or uncomfortable, what was the glimmering light that came out of it? Because again, there's always silver linings if we look for them. So, what was it for you that really came up as a huge reflection? Third thing is, did you experience closure? Oftentimes during a retrograde, we are given an opportunity to tie things up with a nice little bow and put it back over on the shelf because it's officially done with. If there's something in your life that wasn't completely finished, did it get more finished during this retrograde? Were you able to go back over, revise things, maybe make some edits, and hopefully create some level of closure? Maybe this was in a relationship or a project you've been working on. What was it for you that it really felt like it came to a close? Last but not least, what was revised during this period and how can you implement that now? So, thinking back to what was going on for you, what did you decide needed to be changed? And what now can you do to make those changes? So, I hope those reflection questions helped you. I encourage you to take some time and really think about the retrograde because retrograde is something we experience 3 times a year. Let's use these times to our benefit. And now that the retrograde is over, let's enjoy a much smoother period of mercurial activities. The second major cosmic event going on over the next few weeks is, of course, the full moon in Gemini, our last full moon of 2024. This is again happening on Sunday, December 15th. In correlation with Mercury going direct, we have a full moon in the opposite sign of Gemini. Now, this means the sun is in Sagittarius, as of course a lot of us already know, and the moon is in Gemini. So now we have this opposition between these two signs that are so energetic, so curious and bubbly. A lot of positive stuff can come out of this. Now, before we dive into all of the nitty gritty of this full moon, and of course your horoscope, so you know where this is showing up for you, I do encourage you to think back to June 6th of 2024 of this year, because that was when we had the new moon in Gemini. New moons are a time when we plant seeds. So, what seeds, what intentions or goals did you set for yourself back in the beginning of June of this year? Now, thinking to what's going on in your life, are those seeds reaching some sort of culmination? Have they bloomed? Do you feel like you've met those goals, or has there been some trials and tribulations along the way that have taught you a lot of lessons regarding those intentions that you set? This is all really important stuff because full moons oftentimes do culminate cycles in our life, and these cycles operate in 6 months, going from one new moon to one full moon. So that's a really important thing to pay attention to. Now, this full moon in Gemini is super curious. It is very social and energetic, great for holiday gatherings and parties, any sort of social situations. With a full moon in Gemini, we are feeling like we want to connect with people. We want to maybe even not just talk to people, but learn and even teach others, right? There's a whole lot of communication going on. And the fact that Gemini is the sign ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is going direct today, we can get a lot of clarity out of this full moon. Full moons, of course, are emotionally driven. The moon is the planet, or we could obviously name it as the luminary, which is truly what it is. This is the energy in our sky that operates our emotional body and how we feel. And full moons bring a lot of things up to the surface, right? They illuminate. That's what the moon is looking like. It's illuminated. This is symbolic for our emotions. Our emotions are illuminated during full moons. And it's likely that if there's been anything buried under the surface, it's going to come up during a full moon. And so a lot of information that might have been repressed even during the retrograde could emerge during this full moon and be sort of like that aha moment that if we missed it during the retrograde, we very well might get it as Mercury goes direct on this full moon day. Now, the full moon is next to Jupiter, which is the planet of luck, abundance, and prosperity. So, this can be a very lucky full moon where not only is new information coming our way, but maybe new connections, maybe new perspectives on things, right? That can really elevate us and expand our horizons. What I love about the Sagittarius and Gemini axis is that it's a very curious one, and it's one that's all focused on broadening our horizon and our perspective. The sun in Sagittarius gave us the larger scope of things, but now, it's given us this bigger picture, right? But now this full moon in Gemini is giving us the emotional excitement to pour over the details. I have the big picture, but now how can I fill in the details and really get excited over this complex vision that I have for myself? Again, going back to June, maybe it was something that you initially started imagining or creating in your mind or even in real life back in June, and now you're seeing the culmination, the real finishing point of whatever that thing is. So ultimately, this is a really positive full moon. It is squaring Neptune and Pisces, which did just go direct, which is nice in that sense. I will include that illusions could come up during this time. And so I do emphasize, please double check things. If it seems clear, concise, and understandable, I encourage you to take 1 second look and make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, because Neptune can create a sense of nebulousness, a foggy energy. It might seem like everything's clear, but there's actually an illusory factor to whatever's going on. And it's like a smoke screen. We can't really see things clear. So I do want to emphasize that one thing that could be a little bit of a trip up in this full moon. Ultimately, it is a really happy, positive, energetic, and bright energy. And of course, around the holidays, this is great for socializing, for connecting with other people, for talking, maybe even for reaching out to people that you haven't spoken to, sending Christmas cards or whatever it is, making a phone call to an old family member. Great opportunity to do this, as full moons do make us feel more emotionally fulfilled and ready to really connect with people on an emotional level. Last point on this full moon, because it's an air sign, you guys, the emotions are more mental. It's about what we think, it's about emotional intelligence, thinking greater than how we feel, and utilizing our emotions to expand our way of thinking and ultimately to shift and maybe even improve, because Jupiter's involved here, the thoughts that we have. So let's dive into what this full moon is looking like for everybody. Again, it's going to show up for everyone in a different way according to your rising sign. That's going to be the most specific interpretation you can receive for this full moon, because it's applying to the exact area of your chart that this is illuminating. So everyone's is going to look a bit different. Go ahead and fast forward now to your rising sign and listen in to what you can expect. Also, go ahead and maybe listen in for family, friends, spouses, siblings, family members, whoever it is. Maybe if you do know their rising sign, so you can get a glimpse into what they might be experiencing. And of course, if you don't know your rising sign, that's totally okay too. Go ahead, listen for your sun sign. I can't promise the accuracy as much, but it's certainly going to give you a more specific scope of the energy you can expect during this full moon in Gemini. Aries Rising. Aries Rising, go ahead and think back to what might have been on your mind around June of this year. I ask this because this full moon is showing up in your third house, which is all to do with the mental part of your life, as well as your local environment and all things related to communication. This could even involve short trips and places that you frequent on a daily basis. So, going back to the original question, Aries Rising, What was it that you were beginning, maybe planting seeds for in terms of topics you wanted to learn about, conversations that you wanted to have, things you wanted to maybe teach others about, or even just places in your local community, maybe involving your neighbors or even involving your siblings that you noticed that you wanted to begin? This full moon is highlighting this area of your life. And Aries rising, you might very well be experiencing a culmination of things related to your community and all things involving your mind and your ability to learn as well as to teach. See, the third house is the house of the lower mind. And I say that not in a sense of hierarchy, but more so in the sense that you could equivalate the third house to, let's say, elementary school, whereas the opposite of the third house, the ninth house, is more associated with like college and university. So the third house is the rote basics, right? It's the fundamentals, the rudimentaries of what you need to know about certain things. So perhaps there was a topic that you wanted to learn the basics on. Maybe now this full moon is showing you you have learned those basics and you can finally flourish in your knowledge and understanding of this topic of study. Perhaps you wanted to dive deeper into your local community, maybe forge new relationships with your neighbors, connect deeper with your siblings, as this house does involve siblings. Maybe there was something going on when it comes to your brothers, your sisters. This could be blood siblings, but also ones by choice, people that you call like a brother or a sister. There might have been something going on for you, Aries rising, that you were beginning something new or setting intentions in June. And this full moon might show you emotionally where you are with these people in your life and where you fit into your local community. You might feel more ready to have conversations with these people, maybe more social during this full moon, especially because it's in an air sign. And this is an energy that means that you want to mentally connect. And of course, the moon is very full in this area of your chart. So emotionally, you're feeling really drawn to connecting, perhaps with, again, people in your local community or your siblings, whether they be nearby or far away. What are these local relationships to you, and how have they flourished over the last 6 months? And what is it that you're feeling now? Maybe now you're coming into a full circle culmination of something you've wanted to learn. And now you can finally go ahead and begin teaching from this place of knowledge. Whatever that is for you, Aries rising, know that you are reaching a celebratory point when it comes to the things you know and the people in your local community that you're connected with. Taurus rising. Taurus rising, you are the sign that loves material things, whether that be for their value, for their looks, whatever that is. I know that as a Taurus rising, there has to be something in you that values the tangible, physical things of value in this world, and that is including money. I have good news for you, Taurus rising. This full moon is in your house of earned income. And so there's a lot of positive energy that can occur for you when it comes to the money that you're receiving, the income streams that you have coming into your life. Now, Taurus risings, you've already been quite blessed over these last 6 months because Jupiter, the planet of luck and abundance, has already been in your house of earned income over these past few months. So you might have already noticed that you had more of an influx of money coming in, maybe even in luckier ways than usual. This full moon is highlighting that. It might be a culminating point where perhaps you set into motion some business plan or stream of income that you wanted to start generating for yourself back in June. And this full moon is the culmination where maybe you get that first paycheck or you start to see the bigger vision of where this thing can go. Taurus rising, you are really leaning into your material possessions, even the material comforts in your life. This can even apply to your diet and the foods that you eat. Perhaps you're experiencing a full circle moment, a culminating moment where you might have began a new diet plan or you started eating different foods and now you're seeing the effects of that full force. This full moon is definitely activating all the things that you own, and you might start to even want to emotionally lean into these things, connect deeper with them. Or because it's in the sign of Gemini, maybe you want to do some research, maybe reach out to a friend, have a conversation, learn something about money making or something involving an investment you want to make or an item you would like to purchase. Again, Taurus rising, anything involving the material things that you own and attract to yourself, you might be feeling like you're experiencing a real rush of energy when it comes to these things. And because it's a full moon, this can be really positive. Now, it is opposing that sun in Sagittarius occupying your eighth house, which could be really leaning you deeper into the connections you have with people that you share money with, perhaps a spouse or any sort of entity, like a loan or a bank, anything like that, credit card company. You might be feeling like that's been really the focus for you these past few weeks. And now this full moon is reminding you to still prioritize your income. Make sure that you are set, okay? Make sure that you are set and okay before you go ahead and become super generous with sharing money with other people. That could simply be the lesson that this full moon teaches you, or something along those lines, where you're realizing the value of the money that you earn, the security that you create for yourself. I know security is a huge thing for Taurus risings. Where is the security for you? And does it feel like you can create that for yourself? That's the biggest thing that you might be experiencing during this full moon in Gemini. Gemini Rising. Gemini Rising, the spotlight is on you. This full moon is culminating in your first house, which is all about yourself, your physical body, your health, your appearance, and the persona that you give off to the world. Gemini Rising, think back to June of this year. What intentions did you set for yourself? Nobody else is involved with these intentions. What was it that you selfishly said, I need to do this for me? That thing that you put into motion back in June is likely reaching a culminating point right now. That could be something involving your physical health. It could be involving your appearance. Maybe you said, I'm going to grow my hair out. And now look at you, Gemini Rising. You might have a really long mane or a really thick beard, whatever that is. You might be experiencing a culmination of something that you wanted to create for yourself physically back in June. You also might notice, Gemini Rising, that during this time, this full moon is making you more sensitive, making you more emotional, right? Because full moons are illuminating the emotional body within us. And the moon is a very potent force, right? The moon is our emotions. It's how we feel. And when it's full like this, it's illuminating things that we might not have looked at before. Maybe there's a part of your personality or the way that you look and the way you come off to people that you would like to improve. You've had Gemini energy going on you've had Jupiter energy going on in your first house now for the past 6 months, right? Just around the time that we had the new moon in Gemini, we also had Jupiter enter Gemini. And so you might have been feeling a sense of expansion where you're really maybe attracting more luck and opportunity into your life, maybe more social contacts and people. You notice maybe people are just more drawn to you. This full moon, you might notice that even more. It could be that you feel doubly social. Maybe you feel more sensitive to social situations because you notice that everybody's starting to really gather around you, Gemini Rising. Again, the spotlight's on you during this full moon. How can you use the spotlight to your benefit? How can you more prioritize yourself during this time to ensure that you're getting the most out of this lunar energy? This is the culminating full moon of 2024, and it is all about you. So take some time, Gemini Rising. Be a little selfish with prioritizing your self care. What needs do you have? So that way, when you do fill your cup, you can also pour into others. This full moon will likely mean that you are tapping deeper into your emotional body, how you feel about yourself, and maybe the answer to deeper questions about yourself are coming up for you during this time. Cancer Rising. Cancer Rising, this full moon in Gemini is in your 12th house, which is the house of all things hidden. Everything going on behind the scenes in your life might be getting illuminated during this full moon. Now, if you think back, Cancer Rising, to the beginning of June of this year, did you find that you were setting new intentions around your own personal needs that are hidden from the world? Maybe your spiritual needs, such as meditation or some form of devout practice. Perhaps you were prioritizing your mental health during this time because this is the house of mental health. Or simply you were more so focused on creating safe spaces that you could be by yourself and recharge your batteries in isolation. This full moon could illuminate all of those things for you that might have been keeping you in your shell. And perhaps you now are seeing the benefit of being in your shell. Maybe you're seeing the benefit of alone time. During this full moon, you might see the culminating effect of a meditation practice or a spiritual practice that you've been on for the last 6 months. It could be, Cancer Rising, that your mental health has done an 180 over these last few months and you feel recharged and renewed, and maybe like you've hit a new peak of mental wellness. All right, this is the house that everything is hidden in. And so this full moon might feel a little more subtle for you, even though the moon is a very strong force in your chart, Cancer Rising. We can't forget that Cancer is ruled by the moon. So naturally, full moons are going to affect you. But this one might be a little bit more in the background where other people might not see you feeling as sensitive to this moon as you might normally, but you yourself might be noticing the subtle shift of energy that's affecting you on a much more internal, even subconscious note. I would definitely recommend Cancer Rising. Please pay attention to your dreams during this full moon, as the 12th house does govern over our dream state. And oftentimes, full moons can illuminate things and bring information, especially in the sign of Gemini, an air sign, which is very information based. You might be receiving information during this full moon through your dreams, through your meditations, prayer, anything that allows you to go more inward, tap into your inner world, and sort of cut off the externals, right? Maybe this is through sleep or anything that allows you to sort of desensitize yourself to the outside world and really go within to what is very deep down important to you to really think about, feel about, and maybe even learn more about who you are when nobody else is around. Cancer Rising, this is a very special, very sensitive full moon that, again, could mean that all you need to do is take some time alone, right? Recharge your batteries in private and get clear with your inner self as to what the answers are that you need to listen for. Leo Rising. Leo Rising, this full moon in Gemini is showing up in your 11th house of friendships, networks, organizations, teams, and even your greater hopes and dreams. So, Leo Rising, thinking back to June of this year, what friendships were really prominent in your life? And how are those friendships doing now? Perhaps you had some new friendships start or even some friendships end during that time. This full moon is likely bringing a culminating energy to the connections that you share with the people that you are a part of, right? The larger group that you are connected to, your friend group, the organization you might be a part of, uh, even just teams that you're part of, networks, right? All of these people in your life, this is the culminating moon for you that might be showing you how you feel about the friends in your life. How do you feel about where you fit into your social group? Do you feel like your social circle is helping you elevate, or are they keeping you held back from things that you know you could be accomplishing? The answers to this could likely come during this full moon, especially with Mercury being direct. You might have had some old friend things coming up for you over the last few weeks, or even just feeling like connections with people, even partners in your life, have been kind of operating in reverse. Now that everything's going forward, Leo Rising, you might be noticing that friendships that are meant for you are operating full steam ahead. They're lucky, you're feeling abundant with them, and all things are well. You also might notice that if a friendship is not meant for you, this full moon will completely cut it off, right? This full moon is that peak moment of whether you're going to continue on or if that's the end, right? That's what full moons often give us. It's the end of a 6 month cycle, but it also teaches us a lot about what we can expect now moving ahead. Also, Leo Rising, think about the hopes and dreams you had for yourself. Maybe you set some big goals, some intentions around your dreams, not just goals at work or in the gym or with your family, but real big hopes and dreams. What's your greater mission? What is that vision you have for yourself, Leo Rising? And maybe June, around this time in June, you were really noticing and coming into clarity over what that is for you. This full moon might be showing you the result of that intention you set for yourself. That vision you had, this full moon might be showing you the result of that vision. So, Leo Rising, biggest piece of advice is go ahead and be social, right? This is Gemini energy. The full moon might be making you more connected with your friends. You might feel more social, more ready to have conversations with people, maybe even show up to more social gatherings and really network with other people. This is an amazing time to do so, as you might find that connections and networks are abundant during this time. You can make contact with a lot of different people during this full moon. Also, just pay attention to the emotions that are getting stirred up in your friendships and honor the ones that are meant to go ahead with you into this next chapter, especially entering into 2025, as well as be okay with saying goodbye to the ones that had a good run, but maybe this full moon is showing you that they're not meant to be long term. Ultimately, this full moon is a deeper dive and an illumination into the friends and networks that you're part of. Virgo Rising. Virgo Rising, this full moon in Gemini is occupying your 10th house of career. So, my first question for you, Virgo Rising, what was happening for you back in June? What career goals or intentions did you set for yourself, and how is it going now? It is likely that this full moon in Gemini is really bringing things full circle for you when it comes to your career and the purpose and the mission that you have for your reputation in life and the platform that you occupy in this world. What labels do you hold? What titles have you earned? And where is this going for you into the next phase, into 2025? This full moon is really that peak moment of your career that you might find new information is coming in for you to really work with, maybe positive new opportunities, especially with Jupiter's presence here. Maybe some really positive stuff is going on. It's likely that you might have already experienced an expansion around your career since Jupiter's been occupying this house in your chart for the last 6 months. At the same time, this full moon is really emotionally drawing you into your career and might have you more focused on career matters. You might notice that during this time around the 15th, you feel more inclined to make sure that all things are handled career wise, maybe stepping up into a new position that you've been given, or even just doing your job that much better because it feels really good to do it, right? That feeling, that motivation to maybe take different action in your career could likely be as a result of this full moon. Pay attention to the people in your career life, the opportunities, the networking that you might experience during this time, especially in the sign of Gemini. It's an air sign. Communication abounds when the full moon is in Gemini, and we are connecting emotionally with people through our thoughts. And so, this is an amazing time to share new ideas, maybe with the people you work with, maybe with a higher up in your profession, right? Connecting even with a mentor, or even learning something new, or even teaching a new topic to people in your career field, perhaps if you're the expert or you need to learn from an expert. And this might be a great opportunity to do that, right? This full moon is really giving you an opportunity to illuminate all things career wise and look at the titles that you have in this world. What are you known for, right? Oftentimes when we introduce ourselves, it's like, yep, this is my name and this is what I do. That's our 10th house talking. So, what is it for you that you can proudly say you do? And maybe if there's not some pride there, maybe there's a feeling this moon is illuminating for you that things could be better when it comes to your career, Virgo rising, then use this opportunity, this full moon, as a chance for you to get clear on emotionally how you feel about your career and make sure that going into 2025, you're taking steps that are in alignment with your emotional needs when it comes to your career and not just the external ones. Libra rising. Libra rising, this full moon in Gemini is occupying your ninth house, which is the house of long distance travel, higher philosophy and belief systems, religion, and even higher education. Now, this full moon is culminating something in your life that involves your ability to expand your mind. Maybe this involves trips that you've been going on. Perhaps back in June of this year, you set some intentions around the places you wanted to visit, the things you wanted to learn, the people you wanted to connect with, the cultures you wanted to dive into. Libra rising, this full moon is showing you the culmination of those intentions. Perhaps you are finally being given an opportunity to go to visit a place that you've wanted to go to. Or maybe you want to expand your knowledge when it comes to getting a new degree, going back to school, getting a higher certification, right? Libra rising, this full moon is really being that culmination for you where it's also illuminating a lot for you. And you might be emotionally drawn to the experiences that you've had that have allowed you to expand your mind. This could be going to look at the belief systems that you hold near and dear, and you might be experiencing some aha moments when it comes to what it is that's important to you and who you are and who you've become outside of what you were given just through childhood, right? The ninth house is everything we experience in the world. It's our expansion, right? So having Jupiter here over these last 6 months, you might have been traveling a lot, or maybe you went back to school and now it's the end of the semester and you're finally reaching that end point where you can say, I did it. I completed my semester of schooling and now I'm on to the next phase. All right, Libra rising, utilize this full moon as an opportunity to really hone into what is important to you surrounding your elevation in life, whether that be elevating your beliefs, elevating your religious experiences, elevating your travels. Perhaps this is when you experience new heights when it comes to long distance travel. Maybe you're getting a passport finally after years of saying, I need to get my passport, right? This might be the chance for you to get that done. Whatever it is for you, Libra rising, allow this full moon to allow you to lean into the things that matter to you when it comes to your beliefs, what matters to you on a much greater level than just the here and now. Where can your mind go to, and maybe where has it already been, and what can you learn from what you've already experienced, from maybe the experiences you've had through travel, through study, even just going someplace new. Whatever that looks like, utilize this full moon as a time to connect with people, to learn about different cultures, and to really feel into what matters to you on a bigger, more expanded note. Scorpio Rising. Scorpio Rising, this full moon in Gemini is activating your eighth house of all things psychological, all things deep and transformative. This is the house of shared resources, of sex, of death, of energy exchanges that involve deep intimacy with you and another person. Now, I know that's kind of a mixed bag and it might seem a little bit abstract, but understand that this house is simply about energy exchange, whether that be the energy exchange we experience through death and rebirth, or that which we experience through sex, even through sharing money with another person, as our spouse's income actually falls into this house as well. So, Scorpio Rising, thinking back to June of this year, did you set some intentions when it came to your intimate life? The things we don't talk about, right? Our money, the money that we might owe to people is also included here. Any old debts that you have, taxes owed, credit cards that haven't been paid off. These things fall into the eighth house. Maybe back in June, you set an intention to start paying off an old credit card, or to maybe help your spouse in their income streams and helping them to get off onto a better place in life when it comes to money. Or maybe you set up a joint bank account, or whatever that looks like for you. Back in June, you likely set some goals during that new moon. Something began for you when it came to deeper, more intimate energy exchanges that you share with another person. This full moon in Gemini is that culminating point for you. This might be the culmination of a sexual lesson that you've learned together with your partner, maybe a journey the two of you have gone on together that this full moon is illuminating for you. Now, because it is a full moon in an air sign, this full moon is likely to bring conversations. Now, this can be conversations with your partner surrounding shared resources that you have, right? Joint resources such as, real estate, property, joint bank accounts, credit cards, things like that. It could involve anything involving inheritances. Maybe you're having conversations surrounding things that you have inherited or plan on inheriting. Or again, going back to even things involving debt and taxes and credit cards, anything that is money, shared or owed to another entity. This full moon might be the culmination where something gets paid off, or you begin to get on the right track, or, anything involving these topics in life might reach a sort of peak moment during this full moon. So, really allow yourself to question and go deeper and have the emotional conversations surrounding trust and vulnerability and intimacy. Because these are three of the biggest themes that this full moon is likely bringing in up for you and illuminating for you in this eighth house. So, again, you're a Scorpio. I know you're not afraid. Go ahead and go deep on these topics. Have the emotional conversations that you need to have. Be open to transforming these things in your life. And perhaps this full moon is showing you the transformation that's already occurred. Sagittarius Rising. Sagittarius Risings, this full moon in Gemini is activating your seventh house of partnership. This is traditionally known as the house of marriage, but if you're not married, it involves any sort of partnership, any sort of committed relationship that you have with another person, oftentimes through some sort of legal union or contract. So, yes, this can even involve like clients or even just really close best friends that you consider to be sort of like a partner in your life, right? So, Sag Rising, go back to June of this year. What was happening in your relationships, in your deeper one-to-one connected partnerships in life? Again, if you're in a relationship, this is the committed relationships in your life. And if you're not, if you're single, just think about the one-to-one interactions you have with people on a deeper note, right? The best friends, the partners, the clients, things like that. Where were things going for you during that time? What intentions were set? Maybe new relationships or new levels of commitment were formed around June of this year. You might be experiencing the culmination of that during this full moon in Gemini. Now, because it's a full moon, it means that our emotions are heightened. And so, Sag Risings, I wouldn't be surprised if during this time, this full moon is really bringing up a lot of emotion when it comes to your relationships. And again, this is the committed ones. So you might be having a lot of conversations, a lot of emotional conversations, because this is an air sign, but it's still the moon. Emotional conversations surrounding the commitment in your partnership. Gemini is a very restless energy, as is Sag. And so you might find that conversations are geared towards, freedom or commitment. Maybe it's around mental topics, around maybe belief systems or thought processes, and just even just the ways that we think and talk and communicate with our partner. All of this might be coming up for you during this time, and you might find an illumination. And if there's anything that hasn't been addressed in your partnership, it's likely that it will be addressed during this full moon. So if you've been hiding any certain truths from your partner, if you know that a conversation needs to be had, and maybe this retrograde in Sagittarius in your first house, you realized for yourself what needed to get done, this full moon is now offering you an opportunity to focus on the other people in your life and see where you can show up better for them. And perhaps that is in having that emotional conversation that you might have either been avoiding or maybe just simply didn't happen yet. This is your opportunity. Whether you like it or not, it will more than likely appear that this is the chance that you've been given to have that conversation, to maybe move forward into a next chapter with your partners, with your relationships in your life. But ultimately, know that this might be a much more emotional and also mentally driven time where emotional intelligence is key in your relationships. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I would give you, Sag Rising, is to really make sure that you emphasize emotional intelligence during this full moon, because it is an emotional one. And when it's involving a person in that one-to-one nature, things could feel a little tense, right? Kind of like a tug of war. And so make sure that you're still leaning into your partner's needs during this time and emphasizing the need for communication in any sort of emotional situation. Capricorn Rising. Capricorn Rising, this full moon in Gemini is showing up in your sixth house. The sixth house is the house of your health, of your physical health, right? Maintaining your physical health. It's also the house that deals with your day to day activities, your habits, your routines, even the work that you do on a daily basis, and the service that you provide. Now, having a full moon here means that the emphasis is on all the day to day tasks that you have to get done, right? The places you need to go, the appointments you need to make sure you attend, whatever work you do on a day to day basis, perhaps even involving your career work or something similar to that. Again, this is the house of maintenance. So, maintaining your physical body health, going to the gym, going for a walk, working out. What was going on for you back in the beginning of June for you, Capricorn Rising? Because it's likely that in the beginning of June, you might have set some new intentions or some new opportunities came up surrounding the work that you do, the service you provide, or your day to day habits, including things involving your physical health. Over these last 6 months, you might have experienced a lot of lessons, maybe even a lot of positive expansion when it comes to this area of your life. Maybe your health has been really good, or the work that you've been given has been really positive and it's been helping you to grow and expand, right? Because Jupiter has been occupying this house for you. A lot of positive things might have been coming. Now, this full moon in Gemini is really emphasizing how you feel about the work you do. And maybe new information is coming up for you when it comes to either your physical health or the work that you do, right? Because this is a mixed bag house and it does incorporate a couple different topics. Where in your life can you really experience that sense of culmination? And perhaps, again, this is involving something physically driven, or it's just you knowing that you have checked off the list of tasks on that list of yours. And now you can move into the next phase, the next chapter, right? This is the last full moon of 2024. This is our culminating moment of 2024 energetically when it comes to especially our emotions. And so you might find that emotionally you're connecting more with healthcare practitioners, people in the healthcare field, or anybody that you interact with on a day to day basis, right? Because this is the sixth house that does govern over our physical health, this is an opportunity for you to shine a light on any health things, any health concerns that might not have been given enough light. Maybe you've been ignoring certain health concerns. Capricorn Rising, utilize this full moon as your opportunity to talk about any sort of health topics. Maybe start researching certain things that you know you need to understand more about. Start having conversations and connecting with people that could help you, or even just help you to improve if things have been going well, help you to improve your health or the work you do on a daily basis. Right? This is also the house of pets, by the way. And so I don't want to leave that out. If you have been experiencing anything pet wise, this might be a culmination of that. Maybe you wanted to get a pet at the beginning of June and you waited, and now it's Christmas and you finally decided to get that pet. or something involving your pet comes up for you. And this is a moment where you get that aha moment and you see things clearly for what they are. Whatever that is for you, Capricorn Rising, this is a really beautiful opportunity to lean into the things on a day to day basis that need maintenance and make sure that you're giving them proper attention and energy. The key here is to utilize emotional intelligence in all things going on, and especially if they make you feel overwhelmed. This is the Gemini house of your chart, and Gemini does rule the nervous system. So, Capricorn Rising, I really encourage you to make sure you're prioritizing your physical health, exercising, and taking care of your nervous system by keeping yourself calm, balanced, and in a good, healthy state. Aquarius Rising. Aquarius Rising, this full moon in Gemini is activating your fifth house, which is the house of children, fun and games, dating, and romance. I will start by saying this, Aquarius Rising, this is a very fertile full moon for you. Anytime we have a full moon in our fifth house, it does promote more fertility, motherhood, anything involving children. And so, regardless of if you are a parent or not, or if you're expecting to be one, this full moon is bringing up some inner child or even external child, right? Maybe the kids in your life, things that are happening. Going back to June of this year, maybe you set some intentions around your children. Maybe you set some intentions or new opportunities, maybe new partners came in dating wise. This is also the house of romance and dating. It's casual romance and dating. It's not the committed side of things, it's the more fun and flirty side of things. So maybe you started dating somebody new, or you had a new intention regarding your dating life. And if you're together with somebody and you're married, this might just, again, include the romantic side of your life, going out on date nights, having fun together, keeping the spark alive. Has that happened for you, Aquarius Rising, over these last 6 months? This full moon will likely illuminate that for you. Now, reminder, full moons are emotional, right? So being in the sign of Gemini, it's going to bring up a lot of information and communication. This could be coming from your children, from your partner that you're dating, right? Somebody that you're in some sort of romantic connection with. This could also involve anything involving sports and games, sports betting, gambling, things like that. They all fall into this category, this house. Even creative projects, anything you've been working on that maybe you started a project back in June and you were really creating over these last 6 months, and now finally end of the year comes, last full moon of 2024, and Aquarius Rising, you have completed that project. That project could be a physical one. It could be a project you did for your inner child, for your child maybe, or even with a partner, with somebody you've been dating. Maybe it's just a project of renovating your dating life or renovating your parenting style. Whatever that is for you, Aquarius Rising, this full moon in Gemini is an amazing time to have conversations with your kids, have conversations with the person you're dating, really get emotionally connected through your words, through your thoughts, through the things that you can speak to one another, words of affirmation. This is an amazing time to practice affirmations with the people in your life that you care for, and even just utilizing that sense of creativity and purpose and emotional connectedness to get into that creative state and really tap into your creative juices, allowing them to flow and bringing you into that new state, because this is the end of a 6 month cycle and the beginning of another one coming up in 2025. So really allow this full moon to connect you deeper with your inner child, with that childlike creative energy, and with the fun, flirty side of your romantic dating life as well. Pisces Rising. Pisces Rising, this full moon in Gemini is activating your fourth house, which is the house of your home, your family, even your childhood and your lineage. Right? This is all of the things that are personal to you that you often don't really share with the world, but yet it is where you come from. This is the house of your chart that represents your roots. So this full moon is activating that feeling of where did you come from? And Pisces Rising, you might notice that back in June, you started to explore this. Maybe you moved into a new area or into a new home, or something involving your home life changed or started fresh. A conversation with a parent or some different situation unfolding when it comes to your lineage or your parents, or even in this case, it could be specifically the mother, as oftentimes the fourth house is more about mom, but it could be any maternal figure that raised you, and that could involve dad as well. Now, Pisces Rising, being that this is a full moon, we might feel more emotional when it comes to the people that we live with. So be aware. And if you're listening and you're listening for somebody you know in your life that is a Pisces Rising, and maybe you live with this person, there could be more emotions coming up during this time. You might be more sensitive especially with the people that you live with or the people that you come from, aka your close immediate family. This full moon could be a culmination of anything involving your home or even real estate, as that also falls into this category. And so, because it's an emotional one, right? It's a full moon, it might be illuminating maybe conversations that need to be had with family members, maybe things you want to learn about when it comes to your lineage, your ancestry, maybe even things you want to learn about when it comes to your home. Maybe start to research things regarding real estate or taking care of your home, or maybe there's something going on at home that needs to be tackled. This full moon will likely illuminate that for you, Pisces rising, and ask you, giving you an opportunity to shine a light on things that no one else in the world can see, but that you come home to every day on a personal note, on a spiritual one. This might be really diving deep into your roots, into your childhood, and kind of getting that aha moment, especially with Mercury being direct. This might be your opportunity to, again, in an air sign, have a conversation or gain new information. You might learn something new about your childhood or your family or your home situation. And that could really be that aha moment that brings things into culminating form for you and into culminating light, where you can see them clearly for how they are and what they are, and also give yourself the closure perhaps that you need, or the ability to see more into the future when it comes to what you're creating at home with your family. And going into 2025, what is it that you want to create when it comes to your home life? Ultimately, Pisces rising, you're feeling much more emotionally connected to the people that you live with and the people that are connected to you in terms of family, people that raised you. So leaning into those relationships and also leaning into your home life in general, you might feel more ready to stay at home, be a homebody, and just pour out more energy and also learn a lot from your home and the people that you consider to be your home. I hope this information was of value to you. Please make sure, if you haven't already, that you've subscribed, hit the like button, and of course, comment below if this information really resonated with you. I hope this full moon in Gemini is abundant, prosperous, and that you thrive during this energy. Last full moon of 2024. Let's make it a good one. And I will see you guys on the next video as we dive into the winter solstice and all things related to the holiday season. So I send you guys so much love, and I will see you all again on the next video.